Welcome back to the Buzzworthy Consultant Podcast, where we chat with the leading thought leaders in the consulting industry. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Natalie Oldfield, a best-selling author and entrepreneur recognized as one of the world's top thought leaders in trust. As the president of Success Through Trust, she helps business leaders, sales teams, and professionals increase customer loyalty, referrals by mastering the science of trust, which is outlined in her book, Trusted, the proven path to customer loyalty and business growth. Let's see what makes Natalie so buzzworthy. Natalie, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great. So delighted to be here, Michael. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. As we just mentioned in the intro, you are a busy person. Now, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling you today from my office, which is in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Canada. All
Yes,
right. Our
yes,
neighbors to the north. That's awesome. And so we were talking in the green room about your book, Trusted.
yes.
And I mentioned in the intro that, you talk about the science of trust. Now, well, this is a show about business consultants and stuff like that. So the first question I have, and probably most of our listeners have, is what is the science of trust? And or why is it important to business owners that they understand the science of trust?
Well, it's so important because in my world, it is the one thing and what I've found in my research that makes a company successful or not.
Mm,
And one of the reasons that I wrote my book, Trusted, the proven path to customer loyalty and business growth, is was to share with people a very practical, step-by-step, evidence-based system of how to build customer trust.
mm,
And you ask why is it important? I mean, there's been a lot written about trust, and a lot of people know what it is. We know what it feels like to have trust. We know what it feels like to not have trust. Yet a lot of folks don't really pay attention to how to build it
mm,
and how to know if you have it. And so I I really believe that it is the most critical asset a company has.
mm,
And we should all be paying attention to it. And if you think about a business, and I know everyone that's listening and you and I are business owners, we all track valuable metrics on
mm,
things like, the number of referrals we get, the number of contract renewals we might have. We might look at sales forecasts in the future. And all of those things lead to that precious asset that I would call
mm,
trust equity. If you have high trust with your customers, you will
mm,
get more referrals. If you have high trust, you will have easier and more contract renewals. If you have
mm,
high trust equity, you will also have a strong sales forecast. Conversely, when you don't have trust of your customers, you don't have many referrals, negotiations are difficult,
mm.
contracts often don't get renewed. A lot of times you get customer complaints, or sometimes customers even ghost you, and the forecast is weak. So we should all be paying attention to it. It is the most critical asset that we can all manage and
Mm,
measure.
I love that. Yeah, there's one of the ones in like marketing that we a metric that we track on a regular basis, which is lifetime value.
Yes.
You talked about retention. And when you have a longer retention, your lifetime value automatically goes up. And so I think that there are a few North Star metrics that anybody can put into their company dashboard and help understand whether the trust space is there. Now, you were talking about the ability to get trust. We can get back to how we can keep trust, but getting trust,
Yeah.
because trust is earned. I'm sure you put that in your book. I'm going to read your book because I love how tos. But When we're talking with people who don't know us, how are we building trust in the, say, the marketing space and or the sales space, or what I like to call the client value journey into becoming a client?
Well, there are multiple ways. I mean, one of the things that I would say, as you as an expert in marketing would most likely share with your clients, is that people are looking online before
Mhm.
they even meet you, right? And
Mhm.
in B2B space, we know that they're all looking at us at all these different touch points before you even have an opportunity to have a conversation like you and I are having now, right?
Mhm.
We we look at what are people saying about them online, what are our
Mhm.
friends saying about them, what are they writing about, what other types of customers they have. So we're actually subconsciously deciding to
Mhm.
trust all along the way. So
Right.
that's the very first thing that I would say, is that there are all these points
Mhm.
which in a journey before you even meet them. And then once you meet someone, we decide really quickly. In fact, we decide in 33 milliseconds in face to face whether or not to trust.
Mhm.
And you asked about the science of trust. Well, there's a lot of neuroscience about trust. There's a lot of social science. There's a lot of economic science about trust. It's all interwoven. And I think for business owners, it's really critical to recognize that we're looking all along the way. So we need to be focused on the person that we're trying to earn the trust of and build the trust of.
Mhm.
So it's a big topic, and I love that you say there are a lot of sort of north stars and of how to measure and things to look at for customer sentiment. And I love that you look at the lifetime value of a customer.
Mhm.
And if you think about it, for most companies, they really want to be seen as the most trusted in their industry.
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
articulated that way, but they
Mhm.
do, right? I mean, a
Mhm.
lot of companies that I work with, they come to me and they say, Natalie, we really want to talk about customer experience. We really want to talk about how we can help reduce the number of complaints. Or we know that we have some people on our team that are not as confident as other folks, and they don't build confidence with our customers.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of a very specific client that I worked with just a few weeks ago that came to me and they said, we have the most technically astute team. We do a great job building software and
Mhm.
fixing their networks. However, our customer retention levels are not where they should be. And we know that the lifetime value should be a lot larger. And there's something going on. Well, it starts with the people in the company. And it means that those people, they just don't have the skills to know how to build trust. So, one of the things that I love doing is teaching people the step by step methodology that's evidence based on how to build and earn relationships of trust with
Mhm.
a customer, partner, supplier, colleague. In the case that I'm thinking about, because you made me think about them because you mentioned customer lifetime value, that
Mhm.
that was a big deal for them. They really wanted to grow that. So when we looked
Mhm.
inside, we saw, okay, it's about the people. And it always comes down to the people. It starts there with the people.
Mhm.
Clients want to measure trustworthiness, and I do that with them, but it really comes back to, are the people in all of their interactions,
Mhm.
are they either building trust or eroding trust?
Friction. Friction is a big deal there, because trust is, you're giving people, if there's somebody like me where when I meet people they have a full tank of trust, and then they give me reasons not to trust them, and
Yeah.
then eventually they empty that tank and I walk away.
Mhm.
And along the way they get less and less ability to pull me in any one direction because there's less fuel to do that. And I think that it's a very invisible metric when it comes to a conversation, like when you're in a sales call, or maybe you're in a client success call. For
Yes.
those with client success teams, where you're trying, the person, the CSM is not there day to day, like the account manager is. And then an
Right.
account manager can have a false sense of security in that sometimes our clients are polite. They might not be happy, but they'll be at least polite because they know that, piss and vinegar is not going to really get them anywhere. Right.
Right.
And so they're not going to get that full fledged insight. And that's why we have client success teams. But the client success team has to then now peek in and be able to gain that trust to where they'll open up and say, how are you really feeling?
Right.
Type of thing. And so what you're talking about, it sounds like, is that we're helping those types of people who have a very finite amount of time with somebody
Yes.
to gain that trust that's above the social proofing that you were talking about, where we're
Yes.
online and we're taking a look at what the other people have said. So if enough other people, the mob mentality of social proofing, right, says that this person is trustworthy, then I will at least give them a fair shake in trusting them.
Yeah. And one thing that's really important for us to remember is that for most companies, if you think about a whole year, there are not
Mhm.
that many touch points with a customer. So it's not just the customer success team, but it's also the account management team, the senior team,
Mhm.
depending on what type of company it might be when they receive a box or they receive the product,
Mhm.
right? At
Mhm.
every single touch point throughout the journey of
Mhm.
working with a company, we want to be focused on building and protecting a relationship of trust. And I mentioned the company that I work with, that we realized that, okay, here's where the critical trust risk point is. That's what I call it for this company,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
with the client facing people. Some of
Mhm.
those people are, like you said, customer success folks. Some of them are technical leads or sales engineers, or maybe it's the support group.
Mhm.
And typically, these are the front facing people where trust is developed or eroded.
Mhm.
And the program, so one of the programs I have in my company is we have what I call a trust mastery program, where
Mhm.
these frontline folks learn the skill set to
Mhm.
become the most trusted.
Mhm.
And I really believe it is a skill, and it's the top skill that we should all learn.
Mhm.
And you can have the best process in the world, or the best technology, or best product, best mousetrap, most patents, but at the end of the day, if you don't have the trust of your customers and you don't have the people who can
Mhm.
build and maintain and protect that trust, you're not going to be successful.
Right. No, I mean, you gotta have the trust, and they say good. I have a friend of mine. He's an Inc. 5000 company owner, and he always
Oh,
says, like, goodwill, or attaboys, as he says, one oops erases a lot of attaboys. So we always have to be depositing these trust nuggets in there. And you kind of gave me an idea
always.
of the when we're talking about services versus products. Like a lot
Yep.
of, like, in my space, our clients are talked to multiple times a month, if not every week. And,
Yes.
and then we also have some that are hands off. Like, so we have software as a service opportunities, and other people might have products as a service, right, as their service right
That's
there.
right.
And what we say, if I'm hearing you correctly, during those touch points, and it might not even be you speaking, it might not be
That's right.
it could be a text that's followed up and says, hey, I just want to make sure your product got there safe and in one piece and you're happy with it. It could be a small little thank you note inside the box. It could be a note that goes with your renewal fee that says,
That's
hey,
right.
we know you have a choice, and you dot 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 dot. It could be just a check-in call when one wasn't expected, right?
Yes.
Hey, notice that we if you look into their account and you see that they're active with it and they're happy. So many people forget to touch their clients when they're happy, when they're getting value,
That's right.
right? And giving
Yes.
them a chance, and really just reselling your value that you are bringing. Because sometimes when things are going really smoothly, to me, we start taking that at advantage, right? Or for granted, sorry. And so then we just expect that, right, at some point.
Yes.
But if and that's because the company's not coming back and saying that, hey, what you're getting is extraordinary and you won't get this anywhere else. Because if they come to expect it and the impact becomes commoditized in their brain, then they're going to kind of start, once they do get confronted with somebody else that says, I can do it for cheaper, you're now looked at your that extraordinary service, that extraordinary impact as a commodity, and now price becomes the competitive advantage. Only to find out when you jump ship for a cheaper piece of equipment or service or whatever it is, oh wow, I didn't even know how good it was. And that's considering building trust with people who already trust you seems to be something that's part of the equation. Would you agree with that?
I would. I would. And I would just to expound on what you mentioned. It comes down to the people,
Mm,
and everybody in a company, regardless of their role, has a part to play in the customer's decision to trust you.
mm,
Everybody,
mm-hmm.
whether you are a project manager or a sales engineer or an account manager or customer success person.
Mm-hmm.
It is in these touch points that we either build trust or erode trust.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes people say to me, well, how do you know if you have it or not? Well, you know you have it when you you get referrals, when customers want to say, I want to do another project with you. And you know you have it when they automatically renew. You know a signal that you don't have it or something is going wrong when they say things like, you used to do this, this, and this,
Mm,
or your sales forecast is flat, or the renewals are not happening like they used to be, or maybe you have a lot of customer complaints. You can actually measure trust. And so, one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that yes, we have all of these metrics in companies like referrals and all this stuff. But I have a number of clients that quantify trust and they use it as a key performance metric. And I created this diagnostic tool called the Client Trust Index that actually measures a company's trust equity so that you know how you are doing and can work towards that. So it is a predictor of future success. So your trust equity score
mm,
predicts your future success. The science and the evidence shows that when you have high trust, you will have more renewals and people will continue to buy and you'll have more contract. Um, they will continue to buy your products and services. So it's just like your friend said. It truly is a very significant sign of goodwill.